Carolina Insider is presented by Wells Fargo, official sponsor of Carolina Athletics.
We're back. Time for another edition of Carolina Insider Live. Jones, Adam here with you. Thanks so much for being with us. The show brought to you by Wells Fargo. When our communities need us, Wells Fargo is here to help. Adam, we have a lot to talk about today. A terrific guest, as well as former Tar Heel and recently retired from the NBA, Marvin Williams, is going to join us. Can't wait for that. But let's talk football first. And a couple different things, Adam. Let's start with the fact that it's a long period of time between the Tar Heels' first game, when they did play and defeated Syracuse back on September 12th, 31-6. And now the next matchup, which is going to be in early October against BC. And Mac Brown said earlier this week they're just kind of handling it as if they're starting the season again.
We said when the season started, every team, including Carolina, would have to be very flexible. And that's what's happened after just one game. As the Tar Heels, as Jones said, I think that's the right strategy to treat it as a season opener. Mac Brown's been very good in both season openers and in bowl games, with an extended period of preparation where you have to do some creative things with your practice time and with your personnel. And that's what the Tar Heels will have to do against what appears to be a pretty good Boston College team in an important ACC contest.
BC defeated Duke in Durham 26-6 in its first game. The Eagles host Texas State coming up this weekend in their second game of the year. Some other big news from the football side of things, Adam. It is statewide news for the state of North Carolina, as Governor Cooper lifted some of the restrictions as far as outdoor gatherings, and now outdoor stadiums like Kenan Stadium can have up to 7% capacity. So not a huge number, but around 3,500 or so fans now able to join the action in Kenan Stadium.
Thank goodness we never put that dome on top of Kenan Stadium. All 3,500 fans who go in are going to appreciate that. And you've got to take care of the players' parents first, and you would think you'd like to include some students, but all those details are a work in progress, and Carolina's got a couple weeks to figure it out. And hopefully that plan stays in place, because as with everything else we've seen, things can change at a moment's notice, but as of right now, that's a step in the right direction.
Football not the only sport that is ongoing at Carolina. In fact, Adam, most of the fall sports now up and running and have been successful so far. That includes Carolina field hockey, of course, back-to-back undefeated national champions, in the field hockey squad starting its season with a win. Now 47 consecutive victories for Karen Shelton's team, and a couple of individuals were honored this week, and a pretty neat statement as well by Tar Heel superstar Erin Matson.
I thought this was neat. It's from Erin Matson's Instagram story, which we all follow religiously because she's been on the pod. And a little harken back to Michael Jordan here with the "we're back." And then the 46-0, which at the time was the number of consecutive wins for Carolina field hockey. It's now 47-0, as Jones said. On the basis of that win, Carolina sweeps the Player of the Week awards in ACC field hockey. Meredith Shoulder on the offensive side, Bryn Boylan on the defensive side. And you would expect the Tar Heels to do very well in those awards as they continue on in the fall season.
Next up for Carolina, it's a road trip to Louisville. That is October 2nd, the date for the Tar Heels and the Cardinals. Let's turn the page to women's soccer, and a great start for Anson Dorrance, who joined us last week here on the show. His squad starts the year 2-0 with wins over Wake Forest and Virginia Tech. The women's soccer team now ranked number 1 in the nation as well. So field hockey and women's soccer both ranked number 1. And Adam, some individual awards as well for the women's soccer squad.
And not surprisingly, the first individual award goes to Rachel Jones, who was the top drawer player of the week. She had 2 goals against Wake Forest. If you follow Carolina women's soccer social media, which they do a really good job with, you get a really good feel for that team, and you also get a good feel for how much her teammates really like and respect Rachel Jones. and how good they think she is, that's usually a good way to tell. When even the teammates are a little bit in awe of her, that tells you she's really good. That's Rachel Jones.
Next up for the women's soccer program, Sunday in Durham against Duke. Let's go from women's soccer to men's soccer. The guys have not played an official match yet, but were victorious in an exhibition game. Tar Heels defeating NC State 1-0 in the exhibition this past week. Their schedule begins at Duke as well over in Durham on October the 2nd. And Adam, not just men's soccer about to get started, but volleyball will be doing so as well.
Volleyball on the court tonight. You can watch them on the ACC network at 8 o'clock against Virginia Tech. That'll be the first match of the season for what I think Joe Segula expects will be a pretty solid squad, and it'll be nice to have the relatively full complement of Carolina fall sports teams back in action.
So things starting to get going again. Let's hope that we can keep this consistent as we move through the fall. All right, let's change gears and get to our interview. Had a chance a little earlier to catch up with Marvin Williams. And Adam, not just a terrific player, terrific person, and has had not just the great Carolina career here for one season, the 05 National Championship, in which he played a huge role, but a long NBA career, which he is just now retired from.
15 years in the NBA for Marvin Williams, great career, made a bunch of money, but also a great teammate. Everyone in Chapel Hill absolutely loves him. You're about to find out why, because great person, great basketball player. We love Marvin Williams, and you're about to also.
We still have the social drive coming up after this, but let's get to our conversation with former Tar Heel, former Charlotte Hornet, former Milwaukee Buck, former Atlanta Hawk, now newly retired Marvin Williams.
What I am about to say does not seem possible. We're about to talk to the newly retired Marvin Williams.
Didn't Marvin Williams just get to Carolina the other day?
I just saw him dunk on Florida State in Tallahassee like 2 weeks ago. So I know there's no way he's played 15 years in the NBA and he's now retired. But Marvin, thanks so much for giving us some time. How's retired life?
It's been good so far. I don't think it's set in yet, honestly. Usually when the season is first over, that first week or two, guys are just trying to really decompress, trying to slow everything down, I guess, spend as much time with your family and stuff. So I kind of still feel like I'm in kind of that area right now. But I think once basketball starts up again, it'll start to hit me that I'm not actually going back.
Marvin, why was now the right time for you to say goodbye to the game professionally, at least?
Honestly, I think it's more so about off the court for me than on the court. I feel like my personal life is just so different now. I have 2 young daughters now, a family. One of them, which is 5 years old, she has a hard time when it's time for me to go on the road. She doesn't quite understand if I'm going to be gone for 2 nights or 2 weeks, and that kind of hurt me to have to continue to leave her like that each and every day. So I just felt like at this point in my life, actual living is more important than playing basketball. So I just felt like it was time.
That's the perspective I would expect from Marvin Williams.
Absolutely.
This was an eventful year to make your 15th and final year. What were the last maybe 2 or 3 months of this season like for you?
Oh, man. Honestly, to take you guys back to February probably, when I ended up leaving Charlotte to go to Milwaukee, it's been an interesting ride. You get to Milwaukee, you move your entire family up there, and then, a week and a half later, the All-Star break happens. So you go on vacation. I come back from vacation. A week later, COVID happens. So we're in Milwaukee for maybe like an extra month, trying to figure out if the season is going to resume or not. I'm training in this basement of a house that we just rented, finally get out of a hotel. And then after the season kind of looked like it was going to slip away a little bit, it was really cold in Milwaukee, and I really missed Charlotte. So we actually packed up our family, and we drove 13 hours. We drove home. So I got back home, stayed there for maybe like 5 or 6 weeks, and I left after Memorial Day. Went back to Milwaukee to start training and got ready for the bubble, and then I was in the bubble for the last couple of months. So, man, it's been really interesting for myself, obviously for my family, my friends, something that I've never experienced before, but I'm thankful to say that it's a new experience for me.
What is bubble life like?
Do you want the truth, or do you want what you guys are seeing on social media?
No, we do. We definitely want the truth.
No. The NBA did a fantastic job, man. They did a great job. Them and the Players Association really putting something together to, get the season finished. When it looked like everything was honestly over, and I know a lot of guys thought it was done. They pulled the bubble out of their hat, which was unbelievable. It was very boring. I'll be honest and say it was boring. It was difficult to be away from your family. It was difficult to not really have an escape from basketball. It sounds cool to kind of eat, sleep, and breathe basketball because it's kind of what we do. But I think as a professional athlete, you need something to escape that for your mental. But when you weren't practicing or weren't playing games, someone else was. So you were either seeing other teams walking around the hotel or you're just watching games all day long. And that's all you did for 2 months. So it was difficult at times. It was very challenging at times. But again, hats off to the NBA and the Players Association for pulling that off.
As the Bucks were discussing postponing a playoff game, you were sitting right there in the locker room as that discussion was evolving and unfolding. What was it like inside that room as your team took an historic step?
Obviously with everything going on the outside, and I say the outside meaning like the bubble, I felt like we were so isolated and sometimes so removed from reality. It was difficult for us. We didn't really know, how families were doing with COVID, how your family was doing just with you not being there. Then obviously seeing the social injustices that are going on in America right now, it became very difficult for a lot of guys to actually want to get up and play basketball. Guys' hearts were heavy. So that day we had a teammate that just decided that he just didn't feel like he could go out and play basketball that day. And we had another teammate that decided to stand with him. And literally 30 minutes before tip-off, guys were in their jerseys, were getting ready to go over the scout. Our coach came in and announced that a couple of guys decided that it would be best that if they did not play. And, as a teammate, as a brother, you're always going to stand with your teammate, good, bad, right or wrong, whatever the case may be. And we all decided to stand with them. And that's what we did. It wasn't the most professional way, probably. And I think all of us would tell you the same thing in the Bucks locker room, but it was something that was just on everyone's heart. We were very thankful for Orlando for being understanding. And then not only Orlando, but the rest of the NBA that decided to stand with us. These are some very serious things going on out there in the world. And, you don't want sports to take away from that. And I think when we stopped and played basketball for that couple of days, I think people really realized that at the end of the day, we are men, a lot of us African-American men, and we really feel like this stuff needs to stop.
Marvin, what was later that day like when all the teams got together, when these discussions were occurring within the bubble? What were those discussions and those meetings like?
Yeah, so we met our team. We met with, a bunch of people while we were in the locker room. We were in there for maybe 3 or 4 hours. Then got back to the bubble, or got back to the hotel, I guess. And there was like an emergency meeting with all the coaching staff and the players of all the teams. And that one lasted probably another 3 hours, 3.5 hours maybe. But it was just guys talking about, what we should do going forward. There were guys that wanted to continue to play. There were guys that did not want to play anymore. There were guys that really wanted to make sure that we're continuing to push the message of the social injustices that are going on. There were guys that felt like basketball was taken away from those things. So there were so many different discussions from so many different people, from coaches, older coaches, younger coaches, older players in the NBA, younger players in the NBA. Your superstars to your 15th men on some teams. So it was a healthy conversation. It was a lengthy conversation, but at the end of the day, I think guys decided that playing was the best way to still get our message across. So that's what we decided that we should do.
Marvin, here in Chapel Hill, Carolina's going to have a very young team this season, and there's quite a few freshmen who are in their first couple of months on campus. If Marvin Williams could give some advice to the 2020-21 Carolina basketball freshmen, what would you tell them?
Follow the upperclassmen. And I know that puts a lot of pressure on the upperclassmen, but that is their job. I tell people to this day, my freshman year, I don't have the experience that I had without a Jawad Williams or a Sean May or a Jackie Manuel or a Raymond Felton, a David Noel. Like those guys, Melvin Scott, those guys for myself and Quentin Thomas, I could not be more thankful for them. Obviously when you hear stories about sometimes freshmen going to college for the first time, the upperclassmen aren't as friendly, so I really didn't know what to expect. I knew Sean because Sean was there on my visit. So obviously I kind of gravitated towards him naturally, but my experience would not have been what it was without Sean and Ray and Jawad and Jackie. Those guys are still like my older brothers now, even though we've left 15, 16 years later, we still have that same dynamic, that same relationship. So I would tell the freshmen, follow the upperclassmen. And I would tell the upperclassmen, you have to lead. You got to lead by example. You got to do things the right way.
Marvin, what's the next step now for you? And I know it's early to ask that question, just a couple of days, honestly, after your season ended. But do you have an idea of what you want to do next?
I do, somewhat. I do know that I want to stay around the game, the NBA game, at some capacity. I know I don't want to coach. I don't want to be in the front office or anything like that. It's just too much stress. I want to find something that is a little less stressful now that I'm retired. But I would love to stay around basketball. I would love to continue to teach kids the game of basketball. I'd love to travel the world. So if I could do something, I guess, that involved maybe traveling and teaching kids the game through the NBA, that'd be awesome.
The best news I heard in that answer, Marvin has no desire to come back here and take my job because, as we have all seen, he could easily do it anytime he wants to do.
No, sir. Thank you, though.
Marvin, thanks so much for giving us some time today. Congratulations on an awesome career, and we're really looking forward to seeing what you do next.
Gentlemen, thank you guys, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. We appreciate the time from Marvin Williams. Our interviews, as always, brought to you by Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola tastes better together. Coca-Cola is a proud partner of Carolina Athletics. From there to our social drive. Adam's going to drive us in, and we have a very busy social drive today. And Adam, this starts with something that's just really cool, some drone footage that was taken over the campus here in Chapel Hill a couple of days ago. And anytime you can see some good drone footage, that's a win.
Do you think we'll ever reach the point that drones just aren't cool anymore?
No.
That when you see the drone footage, you'll be like, I've seen that all before. We're definitely not there yet. And especially anytime you can drone into a sports venue, that just feels cooler because you never get to see it from that perspective, and this no exception.
John Parker Bach kind of buzzing the bell tower there. He worked with Bradley Moore here in Chapel Hill, part of Go Heels Productions, to make all of that happen. There's a ton more footage than just that, so keep your eyes out. You should see some cool drone footage in different pieces over the next several weeks. Well, Adam, we mentioned that there were some fans that were going to be allowed into Kenan Stadium the next time the Tar Heels play. Of course, the first time the Heels played, the stands were empty. So in response to that, the Rams Club, our good friends there, asked for Tar Heel fans to send in some pictures of their favorite Kenan memories, and boy, they received a bunch of them. They've been sending those out through social media, and we grabbed a couple of those.
And just a reminder, of course, as always, Jones, as Cinderella once said, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And when you don't get to go to Kenan Stadium on those game Saturdays, you remember all these fun times and the games you saw. That's an excellent hat right there, by the way. Jones wears that when he does the games. And just also a reminder that we'd love to see you join the Rams Club, especially at this time. They definitely could use the help. They support all the student athletes and all the sports that you love to see. And sometimes people have memories that it seems to be fairly pleasant, Jones.
Yeah, so my guy Jack, young sports broadcaster, came up, watched us to learn what not to do during a game so that his career can be trampolined forward as he gets a little bit older. Adam, by the way, when you said Cinderella, I thought you meant the movie, not the band, so I'm glad that came back together. A few weeks ago, we showed some artwork from Tamon Fox, Tar Heel defensive end, and Adam, apparently the Tar Heel defense is just full of artists because now Eugene Asante has joined the fray.
A lot of debate in the Carolina Insider research room about the medium for this artwork, but whatever it is, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And when we have Eugene Asante on, we want to learn more about how he was able to do this. Again, this is something I couldn't do if I had 100 years to do it.
Eugene Asante, backup linebacker for the Tar Heels, young player who Carolina really likes and feels like is going to be a big contributor both this season and moving forward. All right, let's change gears to basketball. Adam, one of our favorites here on the show is senior Garrison Brooks, and Garrison was highlighted on social media earlier this week with some of his outside shooting ability. Let's take a look here. So Garrison is set up on the left wing, and this is a pretty good percentage for the big fella.
Stretching out that range for Garrison Brooks. You know, the big guys always love it when there's any actual proof of them making outside jumpers. And here it is as he goes 9 of 10 from three-point range. Don't know that he's going to spend a ton of time out there, but Jones, we know Carolina's got more post depth this year than they've had in years past. Garrison's impressed with himself, as he should be. So maybe he'll get a chance to stretch it out a little more. Little prediction for you. Keep your eye on GoHeels.com and the Carolina Insider in the next month or so. You're going to see a lot of basketball content coming up, and the UNC basketball social media channels. A lot of stuff coming your way.
Adam, keeping on basketball, Danny Green, of course, former Tar Heel, a multiple-time world champion, a national champion here at Carolina. He and the Lakers still alive in the Western Conference Finals. And Danny recently had a meeting with Kenny Smith, of course, another former great Tar Heel, and neat little interaction. By the way, that's a virtual interview they're doing. It looks like they're in the same room, but they actually made it work that it's a virtual interview, but a neat interaction here at the beginning of the interview between these two former Tar Heels.
Whoa, what's up, my man?
What's up, man? How you doing? Good, what's up, Tar Heel?
UNC brethren, firstly, congratulations.
Snuck in that what up Tar Heel there at the beginning, Adam, and those two guys, both great representatives of Carolina basketball.
Lakers up 2-1 in the Western Conference Finals. They'll play again tonight. Jones is actually there. That's real Jones. That's not hologram Jones.
We're not there yet.
Did you see how nervous Jones was right then?
I didn't know what was happening. We're not there yet on the technology. By the way, Danny Green now in the top 15 all-time for three-pointers made in the postseason. He has continued a long and successful pro career. Speaking of a long and successful pro career, one of our favorite former Tar Heels is Eric Montross. We, of course, always sign off with our podcast, both video and audio-wise, with the See You Later Big Grits in homage to Eric. And hard to believe, Adam, Wednesday of this week, so just yesterday, the big fella turned 49 years old. Happy birthday, big man.
I was told Jones was going to lead us in a round of song. Evidently, that is not the case, and we are not going to all sing happy birthday in rounds. There's no way that Eric Montross can be 49 years old. I think that's a misprint. 29th birthday for Eric Montross.
I do enjoy Christian Laettner also with the hat on and celebrating Eric's birthday in that photo. That's a good one. All right, let's go from basketball to baseball. And Adam, I know your heart is divided on this next clip. You're a huge Cubs fan, but you also support and love Jacob Stallings, former Tar Heel catcher who's doing great things with the Pirates. Let's take a look.
Fly ball to left
Stay
field.
fair.
Near the foul pole. And Tommy raised the Jolly Roger. Jacob Stallings clears the deck with a game-winning cannonball. His first career walk-off home run, and the Bucks defeat the Cubbies.
So 3-2 the final, and Jacob Stallings, Adam, a guy who didn't immediately go to the pros, but has grinded his way there and is having a terrific season and career in the bigs.
And just an all-around great guy.
Absolutely.
So great to see him having success. There's some chatter. Jacob Stallings might have a chance to win the Gold Glove at the catcher position this year in the shortened season. That would be great to see. He's also having a big offensive year for the Pirates, who have struggled some, but Jacob Stallings having a breakout year.
Staying on baseball, Adam, pod listener Thomas Harder sent in this great picture. He was at the Marty Brennaman Golf Classic. Marty, of course, a Tar Heel, the longtime legendary play-by-play voice for the Cincinnati Reds, just retired after last season. And he was actually on the audio podcast this summer talking about Marty Brennaman and got a great arms crossed serious face there between Thomas, who's on the left in the Carolina shirt. That's Thomas's dad on the other side, and Marty there in the middle in the red. Yeah, see? Arms crossed serious face.
Marty Brennaman was good at that.
He pulled it off pretty well.
He looked like he had been practicing. He was on the audio pod on May 1st of 2019, if you want to go back and listen to that one.
May 1st of 2020.
Yeah, May 1st of 2020 is a little sketchy. May 1st of 2020, so if you want to go back and listen to that one, we didn't prep him that he would be tested with an arms crossed serious face picture, but he did a great job.
Last thing, Adam, before we go. It was big news last week in Chapel Hill as the AFCA National Championship Trophy was in town. It made its way. Look, it was in Keenan. It went to the old well. They were hoping to be here for the game against Charlotte. Of course, we know what happened there. But the trophy made its way here to Pod World headquarters Video Edition studios. I had the chance to catch up with Jordan Dunlap, who travels with the trophy and the trophy itself, and had a quick conversation with Jordan. Let's check it out. You may notice, well, first of all, you may notice that that's Jordan Dunlap over there on the other side of this thing. My name's Jones Angel. We have this enormous, beautiful trophy in between us. I'm going to let Jordan explain a little bit about it. Jordan, first of all, thanks for being here. Secondly, what is this thing?
So this is the AFCA Coaches Trophy presented by Amway, and it's awarded to the #1 team in the Amway Coaches Poll, or national champion, at the conclusion of each football season.
Do you just want to go and give this to the Tar Heels, Jordan? Is that why it is here today? No. Jordan travels with the trophy. How does the schedule get set? Where do you guys decide that this Butte's going to go every week?
Right. So we typically try to pick the biggest matchups each week. This week we were here to give a nod to Coach Mac Brown. You know, he's won one of these before over at Texas, and so he's been a great supporter of the AFCA for years.
How much does this thing weigh, Jordan? How much? I can't imagine this is easy to move around.
No, not at all. So when it's completely set up, it weighs actually a total of 45 pounds. So a lot to haul from place to place each week. The Waterford Crystal football on top, though, weighs about 8 pounds in total and costs around $30,000.
I kind of want to just grab it, but I'm guessing you don't want me to just grab the football.
No, we don't encourage people to do that. No.
Understood. So I imagine, do you have like a fun story or two? I have to imagine sometimes this gets a little tricky to be moving around the country with this bad boy.
Absolutely. So one thing that just comes to mind was when we were in Baton Rouge in January, when we were there for the National Championship celebration. We were going around doing local media news hits to some local news stations. And the team had decided to go to the White House a couple days before the championship celebration. And some people noticed, hey, wait a second, there's one at the White House right now, and there's one with y'all here. So, oops, surprise, there were two. And obviously one was the LSU's trophy that they were going to keep after that, because a new one is actually made each season.
Oh, cool.
And the school gets to keep permanent possession of that.
But this is the only one that matters because it is here with us today. Jordan, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for bringing this to us. And I know the Tar Heels hope that we see you and this trophy in the very near future.
Of course. Yes, we've loved being here. Thanks for having us.
Adam, this was a packed show.
I see exactly where I fall on things now. I can easily be replaced by a giant crystal football.
No, that trophy dominates you in size. There's no question.
There's no doubt about that. That's the level of work I'm doing, slightly above inanimate objects.
All right, we're back next week. Thanks so much for being with us this week on another edition of the Carolina Insider.
See you later, Big Grit.